So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Masters in Executive Leadership event. We are so excited to have you join us this morning. My name is Kaylin Beltran, and I work with our MSEL program. And this morning, you will hear from a panel of distinguished leaders who will share with us their impact that the MSEL has had on their lives, their families, and their organizations. After the panel, Dr. Vicky Halsey will be leading a brief sample class that will allow you to experience the MSEL program. And I would like to now introduce you real quickly to our panelists. We'll start with Dr. Ken Blanchard. He is one of the most influential leadership experts in the world. He is the co-author of the iconic bestseller, The 1 Minute Manager, and more than 60 other books. He is co-founder, along with his wife, Margie, of the Ken Blanchard Companies, an international management consulting and training firm. And the MSEL program came together through the vision of Ken Blanchard, and he'll share how his partnership with USD came to help us think about new levels of leadership that we so desperately need. Then we have Mr. Garry Ridge, who is the chairman and CEO of the WD-40 company. Garry is a graduate of the very first MSEL cohort and an MSEL faculty member. He currently co-teaches culture at work, putting principles into practice with Dr. Janice Thompson. Then we have Mary Randall, who is an MSEL alumni from cohort 16. She is a director at Accelerate, a strategic implementation consultancy where she focuses on harnessing the power of people to deliver results. Then we have Dr. Vicky Halsey, who is the author of Ken Blanchard's legendary service program and also crafted the MSEL program and currently teaches 2 classes, optimizing individual learning and innovation and organizational learning. And our moderator, Dr. Priya Kannan, is the chair of the Department of Innovation and Entrepreneurship and also teaches 2 MSEL classes, Leading Organizational Change and Entrepreneurial Strategies for Organizational Leaders. She was also recently named one of the top 50 undergraduate professors from Poets and Quants. And I will now hand it over to Dr. Priya.
Thank you, Kellen, and thank you for the lovely introduction. And it's very exciting to see everybody here this morning. Welcome. And, thank you for all the questions. We have incorporated some of the questions that you posted. And let's get this started without further ado. And I'm going to start with Ken. Ken, my first question is to you for the panel. Why did you and Margie co-found this program? What is so special about it?
Well, we looked at all the MBA programs around the country, and they didn't at that time, 20 years ago, teach much about leadership. And we think that what's more important in an organization than effective leadership. And so in our program, we think that effective leadership is a transformational journey that begins with self. In the first 3 courses, you find out about yourself, set your own vision and values and what's your leadership point of view and all. Then we move to one-on-one leadership where you're talking about how do you build trust, through SL2, our situational approach to effective leadership. Then we go to team leadership where you're, developing a community. And finally, we end up with organizational leadership where you're talking about how do you build a culture in an organization. So almost half the courses in the program are around leadership. And then the rest of the faculty at USD teach accounting and marketing and finance and all the basics that you really need to go with leadership. So that was our motivation, and it's been an exciting journey.
Thank you. And I can say that, the students that have gone through these programs really talk about how they discovered themselves and how to work with others, and that's fantastic. My next question is for Garry. Garry, what are the challenges you predict that leaders will face in a post-COVID world? And what's the impact of not having great leadership in our organizations today?
Well, thanks, Priya, and lovely to be with you here this morning. I think what COVID's proven to us is that empathy in leadership is really the key to building a very strong culture. And, cultures in organizations are values plus behavior times consistency. That's my algorithm. And when ego eats empathy instead of empathy eating ego, you create what I call the soul-sucking CEO. And these are the leaders who suck the soul out of organizations, because in business, there are 2 things you need. You need the will of the people and a good strategy. You can have the best strategy in the world. You can get it marked by Harvard at 80 out of 100. But if the will of the people is low, then you will not be able to deliver on the strategy. So empathy, authenticity, vulnerability, all these wonderful traits are so important, and never, ever, ever more than they are today with the learning that we've had riding this COVID roller coaster.
Thank you so much, Garry. And I'm going to direct the next question to Mary. Mary, as an alumni of our program, what kind of encouraged you to join us in terms of, what are the symptoms that somebody in an organization thinks, oh, I might need this training?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that there's any, one symptom. I know so many people have gone through the program at various stages in their career and in their life, and their motivations have come from all over the place. But I think one thing everybody, shares in common is this need and this desire to invest in learning more about themselves, learning how to be more effective. I think everyone I've encountered in the program just cares about being the best leader they can be to others. And so that's really what's kind of set them in to figure out, what are the elements of and characteristics of a good leader, and how do I help to guide myself that way? It definitely was my motivation. I was fortunate enough to actually see Garry's output of his MSEL education, as well as a number of other leaders that went through the program before me that I got to watch. And so it was a natural next step for me to dive in as well. Oh, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mary. And I want to tell all our participants that, we got your initial questions, but as you have more questions, just drop them in the chat. And, depending on time, we can address them or, answer back in chat. So one of the questions I wanted to ask Ken is, how does the curriculum in MSEL balance the soft skills with business acumen? And is it going to help people get promoted and get jobs?
Well, as I mentioned, is that a good share of the curriculum is around leadership, but we do really hit the business acumen of the finance and the marketing and all accounting and all of those kinds of things. And I think it really is going to help you get promoted, because the more confident you feel about yourself and who you are and all, I think the better you come across. And one of the amazing things about the program is that we never wanted this to be a huge class. So I think, 25 is kind of the max that we, kind of are shooting for, so that the group is really a support group for you throughout the program. And in fact, every Saturday, we stop the regular class for an hour and a half, and the class meets by itself and says, how are we doing as a learning group? What can we do better and all? So it's not just the instructors. When we have graduation, I go around and one by one people come up and I say, what did you get out of the program? And a number of people cry, because it's impacted them so much. But they say that the most powerful thing about the program was the cohort, and of course, Garry and I feel badly they don't mention the faculty, but no, but it's a wonderful learning experience to be with colleagues that you can, with over time through all your courses. Nobody can come in and take a class from the outside. It's always the same group.
Over a number of years, they also continue building these relationships, right? That's why it's such an awesome program.
Yes, we have a wonderful holiday party. We normally have at our house, and everybody comes, and we always have about 200 people show up, and it's just fun to see people reconnect with members of their cohort.
Thank you, Ken. Garry, you have been supporting this program for a number of years and been an integral part of it. So as you have employees, coming to you thinking about how can I develop my leadership skills as an employee, there's certainly, there's no shortage of books or podcasts or YouTube that teaches you this. So what are leaders looking for in an executive training program, and what are they finding when they do their research? Why this program?
Well, thanks, Priya. Again, just following on from what Ken said, there's individual learning, and there's online learning, and there's cohort learning. And the cohort is a living learning laboratory. You know, when I went through the program 20 some years ago, I was there with a number of different individuals from diverse points of business and life, which made it very, very a rich experience. And that's so important. The other thing that, you know, we have to be really mindful of, Priya, is, and I'm going to pivot a minute, is that you asked, you know, will this program get you promoted? Well, no, it won't. What will get you promoted is the leadership you learn from this program, because it's the people that you lead who will get you promoted. And if you aren't able to bring out the best in others, then you will not bring out the best in yourself. So I think, as a, you know, to put brackets around your question, what people are looking for now in learning is, particularly around leadership, is the interaction with people, to be able to build a self that can lead others through great times and through times that aren't so great. That's what leadership is about. Leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of the people in your charge. And MSEL will give you the tools to do that if you're brave enough,
Thank you, Garry. Mary, my next question is to you, and this kind of goes off of what Ken and Garry just mentioned. So it's, you know, what's the classroom experience? We'd like to hear from yours, the student side, right? What's the MSEL classroom experience, and how is it different from, you know, other leadership programs that you've known or experienced?
Yeah, I think the classroom experience is honestly the best part. And Ken mentioned it, the cohort and the relationships that you build. The faculty is incredible as well. And really it's the amount of engagement. And I know Vicky's going to show you some of what that means today. And they really bring you into the content. And the best part that for me is, you know, we're all busy working adults, right? We're trying to lead companies and go through these programs, and oftentimes also raise families, or there's so much to do in a day. And the great part about this program is that the content that you learn in the classroom is immediately applicable to the job. And oftentimes the projects that you're given and the assignments actually are projects that you're doing at work, and you're bringing back what, you know, how that impacted your business and your results and your team, right? And so it's the duality of the work, it's the partnerships that you're building within the cohort, and honestly, all of that kind of coming together, the classroom experience being on the weekends so that you can still, you know, have your full-time job. It's an investment for sure, but it's hugely valuable. So. And how it differs from other programs, I can't tell you. I know a lot of leadership programs are really about those kind of one-offs, like certifications, if you will. To me, you know, that's a quick fix in some ways, and not necessarily as valuable as this, you know, 20-month program that you're really going to get in depth in yourself and in your organization.
In relation to what she was saying is our assignments aren't go to the library and study this. It's go to your organization and apply what you've learned, so that all your papers and your work is, how does this apply to what I'm doing to our organization? And Garry, you've kind of implemented almost everything we've ever taught. And how many of your folks have gone through the program now?
I think we're up to 34 or 35, probably a $1.8, $1.9 million investment. And let me add to that, you know, in the final class that I did, our faculty challenged us. Would we be able to put a business model together that we could then go and execute, taking all of the learning that we have learned in the MSEL program? And I said, I'll take a shot at that. And I made one, and we implemented it at a WD-40 company. And without doubt, that model is the model that has taken us from $100 million in revenue to north of $400 million in revenue, and taken our employee engagement to 93%, 98% of our people say they love to tell people they work at WD-40 company. And if you happen to invest in our company and stayed the path, we've gone from a $300 million market cap to a $4 billion market cap. But when you think about it, all we do is sell oil in a can. No, that's not true. We create a place where people go to work every day. They make a contribution to something bigger than themselves. They learn something new. They're set free and protected by a compelling set of values, and they go home happy. And every one of those things I've quoted in that statement is the learning that I and the other 35 WD-40 tribe members got out of the MSEL program and put to work every single day. We have proof.
Thank you. That is fantastic. Love, you know, when you talk about leadership, it seemed like something, you know, soft and nice, but this is kind of, no, these are actual numbers you're talking about. That was great. I'm actually going to direct the next question to all three of our panelists. And, you know, Garry just set the example by giving some stories. So I'm going to start with Ken, then we'll go to Mary, and then back to Garry on what are some of the stories that MSEL has had, both about the leaders, you know, the change that has had on the leaders as well as the organizations, or even some more examples of how MSEL students apply the program to their roles at work and what kind of change that they got in them. And to all our participants, I have one more preset question for our speakers. If you have more questions, do drop them in chat.
Well, what's interesting is that at graduation, you know, we get a chance to speak to the spouses of and family members of people. And I'm telling you, the number of spouses that come up and say, you know, my husband or my wife is so much better a parent or spouse and all, because the concepts you learn in this are not just to apply to business, they're applied to your life and your interaction with people. And I think that's, again, what really is exciting. This is not a course in business per se. This is a course in life leadership, I like to say. And I mean, you ask Garry's and my wives, they're just so pleased with us.
You know, I have a great story around that. You know, I'm grateful that one of the other great leaders that I can bring to the class and that it's been supporting our program for many years is a dear friend of Ken and mine, Marshall Goldsmith. He wrote the book, What Got You There, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. We use it as a text in my class. He's been named as the #1 executive coach in the world. He actually comes to our class and is involved. But he does a little program. He says, take out your cell phones. I want you to text this message to your husband, wife, or significant other. How can I be a better husband, wife, or significant other? And we text that. And he's done that in most classes. And one Sunday morning, one of the students or cohort members came back in after doing that and said, this class saved my marriage. When I went home, my wife actually asked the question, I'm a little tired this morning because we sat up till 4 a.m. in the morning talking about how we could be better for each other. This saved my marriage. Mm-hmm. True story.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Fantastic. Mary, your turn.
Yeah. Wow. How do I follow that? It's so true. I mean, one thing that happened for me personally, but I've also heard and seen from others, is just understanding more about what you want, what success looks like for you and what you want your career to be, and being able to identify and follow your true purpose and passion. And honestly, by the time I graduated, I literally that week was the last week at my job that I had been at for 10 years. And I loved the company. I loved everything about it, but it wasn't my true passion and it wasn't what I wanted my life to be. And so MSEL helped me recognize that and move forward. And my career has taken off since. And I know that that story is not unique to me. And it wasn't about getting a promotion. It was quite literally about finding who I truly was and what I wanted to do with this life. So I hope that, people, if you're ready for that change and that awareness, this is the program for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. So the next question and the last question I have for all panelists before I take on more audience questions is, what is one golden nugget you'd like our visitors, considering this leadership journey, or what would you like them to take from today's conversation here?
Well, I like them to take that they ought to be in this program. I mean, if you're looking for a program in leadership or management, if you don't sign up for this, you probably make other mistakes in your life. So I'd like for you to, shape up and join us.
Thank you.
I'd like you to make a pledge that many years ago I read something from the Dalai Lama, and it really set me on my true north. Our purpose in life is to make people happy. If we can't make them happy, at least don't hurt them. And I am sure within your leadership style right now, you have blind spots. I am sure there are ways that you're leading that is not bringing the best out in others. So what I'd like you to do is to make a commitment. The commitment is you want to make the world a better place. And to do that, you have to make a sacrifice. But the sacrifice comes with a prize. And the prize is giving back to others, paying life forward. As Ken often says, life's a gift. Let's not send it back unwrapped. So, let's unwrap yourself right now and look about how you can make a better future. Make the world a better place. This will help us do that because we need it.
Yeah, and I would just add, in order to do that, we need a strong group of people to help us along the way, right? And MSEL, our cohort 16, we call ourselves TFL, Team for Life, and it's so true. We are, and I have regular interactions with almost everybody from the cohort still after 6 years, and it's more than just the cohort too. It's the entire network. It's the entire community and the MSEL family. And these are the people that are going to help us all lift this world to a better place, like Garry said. So I hope that that's a reason enough to join.
Thank you, Mary. Now we have more questions in chat and from the audience. So I'm going to start off with, so we have a little bit more time too. So to what extent is leadership a journey than a teachable skill? Anybody can take it. It's not directed to any one time.
I think it's both. I think it's a journey of constantly learning and realizing, what's working and what isn't. But it's also a teachable skill, which I think we do in this program. All good performance starts with clear goals. If you want to be a leader, you want to make sure your people know what they're being asked to do, and then you ought to wander around and see if you can catch them doing something right and cheer them on. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that you can learn and do, but it is a journey. And I just recently celebrated the 60th anniversary of my 21st birthday, and I'm still learning. So life is a real special occasion, as Garry said. We don't want to miss it. And to me, love is the answer. What's the question? And this program is full of love, because effective leadership is love in action.
Someone once said the teacher arrives when the student is ready. And I think that's really what leadership is all about, is if you as the student are ready to, know what you don't know, which is so important. I learned 3 words in MSEL that I love, the 3 most powerful words in my life. I don't know, and I got really comfortable with it. And I often say now that I'm probably wrong and roughly right in most circumstances, which is also great. But that's what leadership's about. Leadership's not about you. Leadership's about how you can help others be the best they can be. And it's simple. Leadership is simple. It's not easy. And time is not your friend. It's a consistency day after day after day.
Thank you. Mary, do you have any thoughts on that?
I disagree. It's both. You can teach it, but it's a constant. You can also unlearn it, right? With the wrong environment, with the just being in those places where ego starts to step in. And so it is a lifelong journey. And again, having that network of people that can kind of bring you back is part of what's valued here.
People you'll all get a kick out of this, because the thing that really keeps you from being an effective leader is your ego, which is kind of thinking the world centers around you. And and we developed the 12-step Egos Anonymous program. And so in the class that my wife and Margie and I teach, the group goes through an Egos Anonymous meeting, and it's really fun. And some of the people have followed up, and at their weekly meeting with their people, they start with an Egos Anonymous meeting where people have to stand up and say, "Hi, I'm Ken," you know, and everybody goes, "Hi, Ken." And then they say, "I'm an egomaniac," and then they have to describe it, either a false pride when they acted more than, like I'm brighter than, or self-doubt or fear when they had a less than philosophy, which are both ego issues. So it's a lot of fun. So we'll get your ego out of the way too.
Thank you, Ken. Gary, you have a question in the chat. And this is, you spoke about how leadership learning can actually help a company grow. Can you speak a little bit more about how this learning helps advance the work day to day?
If we're not learning now, we're dead. Look at the world, how it's changing at such a fast rate, particularly given, the experiences that we've gone through with COVID. Look at how e-commerce has started to accelerate it at such a way. So, at our company, we don't make mistakes. We've never made a mistake ever at WD-40 Company. What we have is learning moments. And a definition of a learning moment is a positive or negative outcome of any situation that has to be openly and freely shared to benefit all people. So our whole organization has a foundation that learning is really the catalyst. It's the accelerator. So being constant learners is really so important because we don't know it all. I'm just reading a great book by Adam Grant called Think Again, talking about, what we don't know and how believing that we know is really a barrier to our success. It's what we don't know. Ken, you'll know the book that I'm going to mention now, which was a follow-on from Who Moved My Cheese, called Out of the Maze, where Hem and Haw got out of the maze. And the first question they ask is, why do I believe what I believe? So don't let what you believe really get in the way of what true learning is.
Thank you, Gary. So those are, I think we're getting close to like less than 3 minutes. So I wanted to end this panel, and then, any last parting thoughts other than what we said before from any of our panelists before I turn it over to the incredible Vicky Halsey, whose class I would love to take at some point. So.
Well, I appreciate you all sitting in on this session, and I just think Mary and Gary are great to talk with, and thank you for leading us through this thing, because it's a very special thing. Of all the things that I've accomplished over the years, I look at MSEL as one of my real highlights in my life in terms of making a difference in people's lives.